One evening, I decided to revisit Iglehart Park. It had been years since I last walked through its overgrown trails. The park sat far enough from the city to be forgotten by most, a perfect spot for escaping the noise and chaos of everyday life. But there was something else, something darker about this place, something I could never quite shake off. I pulled into the parking lot, the familiar scent of pine and wet earth filling the air. The once vibrant area had become eerily quiet. The old, abandoned indoor pool caught my attention, standing like a forgotten relic from the past. I stood there for a moment, lost in thought. Memories flooded my mind. The late-night swims, the laughter, the feeling of being invincible. But the stillness around me grew oppressive. I shrugged it off as just my imagination, deciding to venture deeper into the park. The trails were overgrown, and the sunlight struggled to pierce the thick canopy overhead. It was a scenic path, one I used to take with friends. As I walked, I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched. My thoughts wandered back to the old days, but a growing unease made it hard to focus. I checked my phone, distracted, and as I did, I noticed something odd on the ground, a torn, dirty shirt. The name Michael was scrawled across it in bold, unmistakable letters. I froze. Michael? My mind raced. Michael had been a close friend, someone I hadn't seen in years. We lost touch after things got strange. His sudden disappearance had never been fully explained. Could this be his shirt? The air around me felt suddenly colder, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. I knelt down to inspect the shirt, and then I heard it, a snap of a twig, followed by something moving through the underbrush. My heart pounded in my chest. I stood up quickly, my eyes scanning the area. I saw nothing, but I felt a presence. Something or someone was watching me. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to ignore the growing sense of terror, continuing along the path, but the feeling of being hunted only intensified. As I moved forward, I came across a drainage culvert. At the bottom, I saw a scattering of discarded items. My breath caught in my throat as I realized that some of the debris looked too human. Pieces of clothing, an old shoe. As I took a step closer, I heard the unmistakable sound of someone or something moving behind me. I turned around, my pulse racing, and then I saw it. A face, twisted, grotesque, like something out of a nightmare. It was watching me from behind a tree, its expression twisted in a cruel grin. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. My feet felt frozen to the ground. I forced myself to move, my steps quick and erratic. I had to get out of here, but as I made my way back toward the path, I saw more of them. Two figures emerging from the culvert, moving with disturbing speed and agility. Panic surged within me, and I ran faster, my ankle twisting as I scrambled up a steep incline, desperate to reach the wooden deck above. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the park. I could still hear the creatures behind me, their heavy breathing growing louder. I pushed myself harder, knowing that if I didn't reach the exit soon, I might not make it out. As I neared the clearing with the waterfall, I realized there was nowhere left to run. The creatures were gaining on me, closing in fast. With no other choice, I jumped into the water below, hoping the drop wasn't as dangerous as it looked. I felt a sharp jolt as I hit the water, but I forced myself to swim against the current, praying for the distance between me and them to grow. I managed to make it to the other side, my limbs aching from the cold and the exhaustion, but I couldn't stop. I had to keep moving. My car was close, and if I could just get there, I'd be safe. When I reached the entrance, I didn't hesitate. I hobbled toward my car, every step feeling like a lifetime. I looked over my shoulder once, but I saw nothing, just the dark forest behind me. I got into my car, started the engine, and sped away without a second glance. I didn't stop driving until I was miles away from the park. The city lights felt like a safe haven, and I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. I called my friend, Matt, but I could barely speak. I was shaking, my mind racing with everything that had happened. He listened, horrified, but he believed me. He even suggested we go back in the daylight to find answers about Michael. When I got home, I collapsed onto the couch, my body aching. I wrapped my injured ankle, but the fear still lingered. I kept replaying the events in my mind. How did I escape? How was I not caught? And then a chilling thought struck me. I hadn't unlocked my car when I fled the park. The realization made my blood run cold. I had been running for my life, too frantic to focus on anything. Yet somehow, the car had been unlocked, waiting for me to get in. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, had been watching me the entire time. The next day, Matt and I made plans to go back to the park. We were armed this time, ready for whatever we might encounter. We needed answers, and we were determined to find them. Michael's disappearance had always haunted us, and now, with the eerie discoveries from the night before, we felt we couldn't ignore it any longer. When we returned to the park, it felt different. The woods seemed darker, more oppressive, as if they were alive, watching us. We made our way to the abandoned pool, where the horrors had first begun. There was no sign of the creatures, but we couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking just out of sight. We ventured deeper into the forest, reaching the clearing where I had jumped into the water the night before. And that's when we heard it. The rustling of leaves, the unmistakable sound of movement in the trees. We weren't alone. The creatures were back. We had prepared ourselves, but it didn't make it any easier. Armed and alert, we made our way back to the car, not daring to look back. We didn't stop until we were safely away from the park. As we drove, the relief was short-lived. The park, with all its dark secrets, had left its mark on us. We knew this wasn't over. Whatever had been lurking in the shadows of Iglehart Park was still out there, waiting, and we had only just begun to uncover the truth.